Welcome, everyone. My name is Fei Wan. I'm an innovator and architect working on cross-organizational problems in Comcast. I've been with InnerSource community for quite a few years since the pandemic. I joined the first virtual summit during that time. I worked with Sebastian on the mind map for the patterns book, because that's the way to help the users to understand how all these 50, 60 patterns fit into the different problems at the different life cycle of InnerSource programs. And today, I will be sharing some thoughts on, in this agentic AI era, how can we reimagine the InnerSource? You might have heard about AI, Gen AI, and agentic AI. So the shift is real. 2025 is a year of agentic AI, the top strategic technology trend. Why? Because agentic AI has the system that can autonomously planning and act to meet the goals defined by the user. It's much more sophisticated than the ChatGPT. You ask a question, you got a response back. It can run for much longer time and do many, many more things. If you think agentic AI is just automation, you would be wrong. It is much, much more than that. When user makes a request to the agentic AI system, what will happen is it will actually figure out a plan. What do I need to do to accomplish that goal? It will create a list of the tasks to get to that goal. And then it will act on those individual tasks, sometimes in sequential, but sometimes even in parallel. And on top of that, it will be able to verify the output from those tasks. Did I get an error on that? Let me fix that. It will keep iterating on all of these until it works. And finally, it will say, here's my delivery. Take a look. So this is much more than just automation. And with all those agent systems out there, I actually find some emerging pattern that I'll be talking about, what I call as the agentic workflow pattern. So we already know this agent that can plan the tasks, orchestrate all those actions, check results, and iterate against the goals. And we also have the user. We, the human being, set the goals for the agent, and we will also validate the response from the agent. And sometimes, you know, the agent could get off the track, and we are the one responsible to say, hey, get back on the track. This is the right direction to head towards. And there's a concept that I call the agentic workflow. You can almost think about that as prompts on steroids. This is really a set of instructions, much more sophisticated than a simple prompt, and maybe also with some templates to define what kind of the output you want the agent to create. And this can drive really sophisticated behavior from the agent with really high accuracy. So of course, for the agent to get this kind of sophisticated work running, it needs a lot of tools. There are the models, ChatGPT 5.0, Claude Sonnet 4.5. There are many more models coming. They're all getting smarter and more powerful every day. That's the brain the agent uses to think. And of course, to act. The agent must have tools. It could be as simple as running the local commands on your laptop, or it could be through the MCP servers to get to the external tools. For example, maybe talking to GitHub through the GitHub MCP, or work on a Jira ticket through the Jira MCP. And the agent, they all have memory. This is what the agent would actually remember what happened, what's important. This is kind of part of the magic to allow the agent to remember things, to run long sessions instead of just like a stateless LLM. So all these combined together provides a much more sophisticated agent system. And keep in mind, human in the loop. We've talked about this phrase many times today in different talks. Human in the loop is super important besides setting the goals, validate the response, and drive the direction for the agent, because ultimately we are the ones who are putting our names accountable for the agent deliveries there. So what is the agentic workflows? It's still very fuzzy. I will use an open source solution here just to show an example. So we talked about spec-driven development. GitHub actually released an open source experiment on spec-driven development. It's called SpecKit. So this is kind of like a subset of folders in SpecKit that lays out the commands and the templates. You can see all of them are just markdown files. So the commands directory list analyze, checklist, clarify. These are all the commands you can invoke through a / command style, and then the agent will follow the instructions in those command files to run. And then you can see also there's the templates.md. The agent will follow the instructions in the command and create the output, complete the templates in that as the output. So what is agentic workflows? They're really just plain text instructions, but they can capture the expert's knowledge. These are the knowledge that may just exist in a few experts, but now we can turn those into plain text instruction and help the agent to also follow that instruction. And the current convention seems to be you do the / command in the agent chat window, and that's how you can invoke this command. And even better, this is a pattern that's tool agnostic. You can use the same kind of command in different agentic tools. So of course, because these are markdown files, they live in the repo, they are versioned, reviewed, just like all the code. So when we talk about they are portable across the tools, you might wonder, what tools are we talking about? What are these agentic tools? Well, surprisingly, they are the coding IDEs that's already on every engineer's laptop. So for example, this is a list, incomplete, Cloud Code, Cursor, Gemini CLI, GitHub Copilot, Windsurf. The list goes on and on. There are more than 20 agentic coding IDEs. A lot of them support these kind of agentic command in this format. So when we actually build agentic workflows, I will keep 2 principles in mind. First, make sure these kind of workflows can be portable across all these tools, because what we have is a super competitive market out there. Who knows which tools will be around in 1 year, 2 years? So 6 months, yes. So when you build this agentic workflow, you want to make sure they can be reusable when there's a winner or better solution in 6 months or 1 year. And this allows us to say, when we put in all this effort to build the agentic workflows, we actually have a vendor neutral solution. Now let's talk about InnerSource. With all these agentic AI tools creating all those code so fast, what's the role for InnerSource? I actually think this is actually a strategic moment for InnerSource. When we talk about InnerSource, the first thing is actually community. We are the part who brings the community together in a big enterprise. We connect with people, we share knowledge, and we collaborate. So I see InnerSource really as a backbone of trust in this special time. And when we build the agentic workflows as InnerSource project, this is how we can scale the expertise across enterprise, because This is the codified expertise as automated workflow. And this also brings the new ways of working, because traditionally, some of these could be taking weeks, and now this could be just days. And of course, with the community here, we can help to accelerate this agentic adoption within the big company, because that's never an easy thing, especially when you have bottom-up grassroots adoption. So community is here to help until top-down mandate happens. So what are the things we can do to InnerSource with this agentic workflows? I will share a few patterns for you to think about. These are actually the organizational level assets that has been around for years. We have all these enterprise standards, the policies, the rules, the playbooks, the rubrics for evaluation. They've been around. We provide training to the people. We expect them to learn, to remember, and use all of those in their day job. But however, that's actually pretty tough. But now imagine when we can turn these enterprise standards playbooks into automated agentic workflow. All of a sudden, these rules, policies, standards get applied every time when the agent work on the code. And actually, agentic workflows is actually beyond coding. So I will share 3 specific patterns just to invite thoughts. The first one will be discovery with architecture diagrams. The second is when you have a certain topic to evaluate with rubric, you can also use agentic workflow. And the last one, of course, spec-driven development. How can we accelerate the feature development with that and use the agentic workflows? So imagine you have inherited a large brownfield project with code repos, hundreds, thousands lines of code. Unfortunately, the authors have left the company. What do? You're accountable to support that project in production or even add more features on top of that. Traditionally, you will have to spend weeks, months understanding that code base. It's never an easy thing. But now with agentic workflow, you could actually figure out a way to say, hey, agent, read through these code repo, figure out the architecture diagrams for me. Because mermaid diagram is a syntax that's really working well with the large language model. So when you have this kind of agentic workflow that can reverse engineer existing code base, you can get architecture diagrams in a few minutes instead of like spending weeks to understand a code base. And when you have all these diagrams, life will be better because you can take those diagrams for much better conversation with the users, with the stakeholders, and including your team members. A picture is worth more than 1,000 lines of code, for sure. The other pattern we can benefit from agentic workflow is all those evaluations. Traditionally, evaluation is very sophisticated. You need to think about many aspects and collect many information, and then finally do the evaluation, comparison, come up with a report. With agentic workflows, what you could do is like turn those rubrics into the instructions for the agent. The agent will go collect all those evidence from the internet, from internal system, and then it will apply the rubric to do the analysis for you. And with the template file, define what should be the output, you can get a really consistent and easy to read report. So instead of a team that may typically need like you send a request, I will respond back to you in 14 days. Maybe now you can respond in the next day. Last pattern I will talk about is around spec-driven development. So before I talk about spec-driven, I will talk about the vibe coding. That's the term that started earlier this year. People would just like chat with the agent and then see the program coming together, sometimes in a few minutes or a few hours. you get a prototype working, reflecting what's in your mind. People are super excited. Many actually people who have never coded before, they're able to use vibe coding to create something to show what's in their mind. But very quickly, people also realize, while it's great for prototyping, you don't take those to production. There are security holes in there, and then you cannot maintain that code because it's all over the place. The agent just managed to get it working. So mid this year, there's a term coming up called spec-driven development. This is a concept to say we actually want to focus more on the structure. And the ultimate goal, it claims to say we actually want to shift the source of truth from code to intent and spec. That is the ultimate goal. I will not say we're there yet, but we definitely see this experiment happening around the industry. One open source experiment there is the GitHub spec kit. That's where it inspired me to say, oh, this can actually work agnostic across the agentic tools. So spec kit kind of like have multiple phases in the spec-driven development. The first phase is specify. Turn this feature request into user stories, success criteria. Those are, again, a set of markdown files output to describe that. And then, of course, planning. That's where it will take those user stories as the input, figure out the technical design, do the technical trade-off, making sure these are the plan that will come up to implement that feature. And tasks. That's the phase the agent will figure out, based on the plan, what are the implementation tasks that need to happen? What are the sequence for those to happen? Or maybe some of those could happen in parallel. Again, all of those plan tasks are output as markdown files for humans to review. And ultimately, the last step is just implement. Agent supposed to just say, okay, I will take the task list, I'll do the coding, magic will happen. It kind of works to some degree. I would not say it's prime for production at this point, but the idea is there. But then where does InnerSource plug in here? Look at those plans where all those technical design decision happens. What are the enterprise standards we have? How do we get them plugged in? This is where I see the InnerSource would help to really plug in all these policies, standards, best practices we have in the company and want team to adopt. And this is a great place to plug in those and use InnerSource to make them even better. So what are the key takeaways? I see in this special time, InnerSource is the backbone of trust for this agentic work, because we have a community within the company, we connect with each other, and we learn and we collaborate. So I would say work on some of the high value InnerSource assets that traditionally are not InnerSourceable. The rules, the rubrics, playbooks, and governance. When we can turn these into InnerSource assets, InnerSource becomes a strategic role within the enterprise. So what can you get started? Hey, maybe start a InnerSource repo, agentic workflows, to collect all those automated workflows in one place. And maybe you can think about the patterns we talk about, discovery, evaluation, the enterprise steps, implement one, put it in there, show people how to use that to make their life better. They can do things faster. They can also actually upskill. Because when they use these agentic workflows, they can always chat with the agent to say, I don't understand that part. Explain that to me. And that's how you learn while you do your day job. So that's all I have today. I dumped a lot of information on you guys in a very short time. Happy to connect, and let me know if you have any questions.